I am pretty sure you have heard the name of the Argonautica. A king promises his throne to a man he's already planning to kill. A ship is built with a talking piece of wood in its bow, and a princess falls so hard for a stranger that she's willing to butcher her own brother to help him escape. This isn't a fairy tale. This is the Argonautica, the original road trip movie, and by the end of it, the hero of the story might just be the villain. Let's dive in. Welcome to the old tales retold, the Argonautica. Picture ancient Greece, centuries before history was even written down, a world where the gods watch mortals like reality TV, where oracles speak in riddles that always come true, and where the worst thing you can do isn't lose a war. It's break a promise. Our story starts in the kingdom of Iolcus, where a man named Pelias has stolen the throne from his own half-brother. Kings in this world are supposed to fear the gods. Pelias doesn't, and that's his first mistake. An oracle warns Pelias, "Watch out for a man wearing only one sandal. He'll be the one to destroy you." Years pass. Pelias probably starts to relax. Then one day, a young stranger walks into town, strong, confident, and wearing exactly one sandal, having lost the other helping an old woman cross a river. That old woman, by the way, was the goddess Hera in disguise, testing his character. He passed. Pelias is about to fail his own test spectacularly. The stranger's name is Jason, and he's actually the rightful heir to the throne Pelias stole. Jason doesn't know he's the prophecy yet. Pelias does. And a cornered king with a crown to protect is exactly the kind of person who starts making very bad decisions. Jason strolls up to Pelias and, pretty reasonably, asks for his throne back. Pelias smiles, agrees, sort of. "Fine," he says. "The throne is yours, if you bring me the golden fleece." Here's the thing about the golden fleece. It's not just a nice rug. It's the skin of a magical flying ram, sent by the gods to save two children from being sacrificed. That ram carried them across the sea to safety in the land of Colchis, modern-day Georgia, on the edge of the known world. When the ram died, its fleece was hung in a sacred grove, guarded day and night by a dragon that never sleeps. Pelias isn't handing Jason a task. He's handing him a death sentence wrapped in a shiny bow, and everyone in the room knows it except, seemingly, Jason. But instead of backing down, Jason does something wild. He agrees. And then he does something even wilder. He puts out a call for the greatest heroes in Greece to join him. The response is insane. Heracles, strongest man alive; Orpheus, whose music can charm rocks and rivers; Atalanta, the deadliest hunter in the land; twins with the power to summon storms. Nearly 50 of the era's biggest names pack into one ship. That ship, built specially for the journey, with a magical talking beam from a sacred oracle tree woven into its hull, is named the Argo. And her crew? They'll go down in history as the Argonauts. But a ship full of demigods and superhumans is basically a floating powder keg. How long before it explodes? The Argo sets sail, and almost immediately the drama starts. First stop, the island of Lemnos, where the Argonauts discover the local women have murdered every man on the island. Long story. The Argonauts stick around for a year. Jason even has kids with the island's queen before the crew practically has to be dragged back onto the ship. Not exactly heroic time management. Next, a boxing match against a brutal king that nearly costs them a crew member. Then a horrifying encounter with the Harpies, filthy bird women who torment a blind prophet by stealing his food every time he tries to eat. The Argonauts chase them off, earning the prophet's gratitude and crucial advice for surviving what's coming next. But the real gut punch happens on a beach one quiet morning. Heracles, the strongest man on the ship, goes ashore to find his companion Hylas, who vanished the night before, pulled underwater by nymphs enchanted by his beauty. Heracles searches, and searches, and doesn't come back before the ship sets sail without him. Imagine being on that ship. The most powerful hero of the age, left behind, because nobody wanted to wait. It's the first sign that this crew, for all their glory, makes decisions that will haunt them. And the sea isn't done testing them yet. Ahead lies the Argo's most terrifying obstacle yet, the Symplegades, the clashing rocks. Two massive cliffs at the mouth of the Black Sea that slam together without warning, crushing any ship caught between them into splinters. No ship has ever survived them. Following the blind prophet's advice, the Argonauts release a dove and watch it fly through the gap. The rocks slam shut, clipping only the bird's tail feathers. That's their signal. Now or never. The crew rows like their lives depend on it, because they absolutely do, as the rocks grind toward them from both sides. At the very last instant, the goddess Athena herself gives the ship a shove, and the Argo scrapes through with only minor damage to the stern. The rocks, having missed their prey, freeze in place forever, harmless from that day forward. The Argonauts survived the impossible. But Jason should know by now, in this story, every victory just means a bigger problem waiting on the other side. They've reached Colchis, and the king who guards the fleece is nothing like Pelias. He's worse. King Aeetes rules Colchis, and he has zero interest in giving up his kingdom's most sacred treasure. So he sets Jason a fair challenge: yoke 2 fire-breathing bronze bulls, plow a field with them, plant dragon's teeth into the furrows, and survive what grows from them. It's basically a suicide mission dressed up as a job interview. Here's where the gods step in, but not in the way you'd expect. It's not Zeus or Athena who saves Jason. It's Hera, still grateful for that river crossing, and Aphrodite, who has a plan involving someone Jason hasn't even met yet. Aphrodite sends her son, Eros, yes, Cupid, to shoot an arrow of desire into the heart of Aeetes' daughter, the princess Medea. Medea is not a typical princess. She's a sorceress, trained in dark magic, fiercely intelligent, and now, thanks to that arrow, hopelessly in love with a foreign stranger she's just met. Torn between loyalty to her father and this sudden, overwhelming pull toward Jason, Medea makes her choice. She secretly gives Jason a magic ointment that makes him immune to fire and blade for one day, enough to survive the bulls and the warriors that spring from the dragon's teeth. Jason completes the impossible task. Aeetes is stunned, and immediately starts plotting to betray him and burn the Argo to the waterline rather than hand over the fleece. Medea knows her father's plan, and she has to decide right now: stay loyal to her family and her kingdom, or betray everything she's ever known for a man she just met. What would you do? Medea chooses Jason. She leads him by night to the sacred grove where the fleece hangs, guarded by the dragon that never sleeps, a monster so large its coils could crush the Argo whole. Medea doesn't fight the dragon. She sings to it. Using her sorcery, she lulls the beast into a magical slumber with an eerie, hypnotic chant, while sprinkling a sleep-inducing potion into its eyes. Jason creeps past the drowsy coils, grabs the glowing golden fleece, and finally, after everything, holds the prize in his own 2 hands. But there's no time to celebrate. Aeetes has discovered the betrayal, and he's coming for blood. The Argonauts sprint for the ship with Medea in tow, and here's the part most modern adaptations leave out, because it's genuinely dark. To slow her father's pursuing fleet, Medea murders her own brother, cutting his body into pieces and scattering the remains behind the ship. Aeetes, forced to stop and gather his son's remains for burial, is left behind. His kingdom's most sacred treasure gone, his daughter gone, his son dead by her hand. The Argo escapes with the fleece. Jason has completed his quest, but he did it by letting someone else pay a horrifying price. And in Greek mythology, debts like that always come due. You'd think the story ends here. It doesn't, because the gods are furious about that murder, and an angry sea is not a forgiving one. The Argo is blown wildly off course, forced into a nightmare gauntlet. They narrowly avoid Scylla and Charybdis, the sea monster and whirlpool that later trap Odysseus. They sail past the deadly song of the sirens, saved only because Orpheus drowns them out with music even more beautiful. They're nearly wrecked on the coast of Libya and have to physically carry the Argo across the desert sand for 12 days straight. And through it all, Medea's magic keeps saving them. Most memorably against Talos, a giant bronze automaton that guards the island of Crete by hurling boulders at approaching ships. Medea entrances him with a spell, causing him to scrape his one vulnerable ankle vein on a rock. He bleeds out his life fluid like a machine running dry and collapses. By the time the Argo finally sights the coast of Iolcus, the crew has been through hell, and gods watching from Olympus have made it very clear that this triumph came soaked in blood. Jason has the fleece. He has Medea. He's almost home. But remember Pelias? The king who sent Jason on this suicide mission in the first place, fully expecting him to die? He's about to find out Jason didn't just survive. He came back with a sorceress who has zero patience for broken promises. Jason returns to Iolcus in triumph, golden fleece in hand, expecting Pelias to honor their deal and hand over the throne. Pelias, predictably, refuses. Worse, while Jason was gone, Pelias murdered Jason's parents, believing his rival would never return to avenge them. This is where Medea decides Pelias needs to pay in full. She approaches Pelias's daughters with a magic trick. She takes an old, worn-out ram, cuts it into pieces, drops it into a boiling cauldron with her secret herbs, and pulls out a young, healthy lamb, alive and bleeding. Proof, she claims, that she can restore youth to anyone. Pelias's daughters, desperate to give their aging father back his youth, are convinced. Medea instructs them to do the same to Pelias himself, cut him into pieces and boil him in the cauldron. They do it, believing they're saving him. There is no magic herb for Pelias. There is no coming back. The king who sent Jason to die is killed by his own daughters, tricked by the sorceress Jason brought home, and the throne Jason wanted for so long is finally, technically, his. Except now the entire kingdom knows exactly how it happened, and nobody wants a king whose wife tricked children into murdering their own father. Jason gets everything he asked for, and it destroys him anyway. Jason and Medea are exiled from Iolcus, forced to flee to Corinth, where, in the myth's final brutal twist, Jason abandons Medea for a younger princess to secure his political future. Medea's response is the stuff of nightmares. She murders the princess, and then, in the most infamous act in all of Greek tragedy, kills her own children with Jason to make sure his bloodline and his happiness dies with him. It's a horrifying ending, but that's exactly the point. To ancient Greek audiences, the Argonautica wasn't really about a golden trophy. It was a warning. Heroism built on broken oaths and used-up allies always collects its debt eventually. Jason wins every battle in this story and still loses everything that matters because he treated the people who saved him, Medea most of all, as tools instead of people. The legacy of this myth is everywhere, even now. The word jinx comes from a bird used in Medea's love spell. Talos, the bronze giant, is a direct ancestor of every killer robot story you've ever seen, and Medea herself became the archetype for the wronged woman narrative that still shows up in movies and shows today. The Argo herself was even placed in the stars by the gods, the constellation Argonauts, a permanent reminder that the ship survived everything. The man who sailed her? Not so much. Legend says Jason, old and alone, died years later when a rotting piece of the beached Argo, the very ship that made him a legend, fell and crushed him. The hero got the treasure, the throne, and the girl, and still ended his life broken and alone under the wreckage of his own glory. Maybe the real golden fleece was never the prize. It was the question of what you're willing to sacrifice to get it, and who you're willing to sacrifice it. If you want more real mythology, the messy, brutal versions ancient audiences actually told, subscribe and let me know in the comments which myth I should break down next.